Hello all, and welcome to the special edition of the Dutch finals of Famelab 2020. I'm Owen Machengail, and I'm your host for this evening. For those of you who don't know what Famelab is, it is an international science community competition where contestants have 3 minutes to talk about a scientific topic. Tonight we have 11 contestants that have made it through their local heats from all over the Netherlands. Listening to their pitches tonight won't be like sitting back at school, as they are not permitted to use any PowerPoints or any other audio-visual equipment. They can, however, use props to illustrate their story. To start things off this evening, we have an introductory video created by the British Council explaining more about what Famelab is about.
Welcome to the Famelab Netherlands final. My name is Wiebeke Asbjørnsen and I'm the director of the British Council Netherlands. We're thrilled that you're joining us online to see our 11 finalists in action. The Famelab finalists have all taken part in heats organised by the universities, a pitch training and a 2-day online masterclass in science communication. These are essential parts of Famelab and help early career researchers to communicate their research and the importance of science to public audiences. This is particularly relevant as the world is coping with the challenges of COVID-19. Famelab also brings together countries and cultures through science. More than 31 countries worldwide have taken part in Famelab. Cheltenham Festivals held the first Famelab in 2005. Its partnership with the British Council in 2007 took the competition global, and to date, more than 10,000 scientists and engineers have taken part. We hope you enjoy the 3-minute presentations of the 2020 finalists. This year, the competition is held online for the first time. However, the criteria remain the same. The participants have 3 minutes to win over the judges and the audience with a scientific talk that excels for its content, clarity and charisma. Props are allowed, but no PowerPoint or audiovisual aids. Next to the judges' vote, the audience also has a chance to vote for their favourite presentation. So please make sure you watch all 11 videos and vote for the finalist who captures you most. And above all, enjoy the talks from these 11 new faces of science communication in the Netherlands.
So, one of the aims of Famelab is to encourage more people who work in science and engineering to engage with the public, and also to help them to develop their skills to do so. After the contestants give their pitches tonight, they will be questioned by a panel of 3 judges who will judge them on the criteria of the 3 C's. That's content, clarity, and charisma. And the judges tonight are Bart Valderrama. I'll hand it over to Bart to introduce the other judges.
Well, a very good evening to all of you, and I'm really happy to find you online. We have to improvise a little bit to get everything going in this kind of blended session of physical presence and online technology. Yeah. We are a jury of 3. I first like to introduce myself. My name is Bart Valderrama. I'm the program leader at International Affairs of the University of Utrecht. And I'm joined today in this jury by Marloes ten Katen and Stijn Cornelissen. They are both professional storytellers, not just any story, scientific stories. And it's my pleasure to give them a couple of seconds, to introduce themselves. Marloes.
Yeah, thank you, Bart. So let me introduce myself in just a couple of seconds. I'm a former science journalist, and nowadays I coach scientists to get their stories across. So that was my expertise in a nutshell. Stijn.
Yes, hi, my name is Stijn. I'm an engineer by training, but I forgot a lot about that. And now I tell stories on stage, but I also help people and train them in getting the story across on complex matters.
And all the jury members have a background and involvement in many scientific communication events, ranging from science cafes to giving training and lectures. I will give the floor back to Owen.
Thank you, Bart. So contestants tonight are competing tonight for a jury prize of a place in the semi-finals on the 11th and 12th of November, and also a professional recording of their pitch. They're also competing for your vote. So you, as an audience member tonight, have a chance to vote for your favorite pitch, and the winner of the audience prize will receive a stack of science-related books, still to be organized by the University of Groningen, but it will come in due time. So how can you vote? So all pitches go online at 7:30 p.m. this evening, and they can be viewed at www.britishcouncil.nl/Famelab/tickets. That's www.britishcouncil.nl/Famelab/tickets. So voting is open from 7:30 p.m. as soon as those videos go online this evening, and voting remains open until the 11th of September until 11 a.m. So even if you know someone who isn't here tonight, you can still get them to look at the videos and still ask them to vote for their favorite video. The winner of your vote is announced tomorrow. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for our first pitch. So our first pitch is going to be given by Lubov Yakovleva. I hope I'm saying that right, who made it through the Groningen heat, and she has a PhD, she's undertaking a PhD in chemical biology. So, Lubov, are you there?
Yep, I'm here.
Hi. What is your PhD about?
PhD is in chemical biology, and I specifically study bacterial sugars, and more specifically even as novel antibiotic target.
Okay, and what brought you to this field?
Nothing super specific. I really just got interested following some courses during my master, and then did an internship, and then got even more interested and started my PhD. So honestly,
You just went with the wind. It's a fantastic thing to do. So now we'll watch the video of the presentation, which is called Sweetening the Pill, Targeting Bacterial Sugars to Overcome Antibiotic Resistance.
Every day, our bodies fight and win numerous battles. They protect us from viruses and bacteria by quickly recognizing and destroying these foreign cells. But how are invaders identified so precisely? It's all about the surface. Every cell wears a coat of surface molecules that serve as recognition labels. Interestingly, often these surface molecules are sugars. Sugars are incredibly diverse and can form different structures depending on their purpose. For example, our blood types are defined by sugar complexes on the surface of our red blood cells. During transfusion, it is crucial to get the blood type right. Otherwise, our body will read the surface molecules as foreign and launch an immune response. We're not the only ones with a sweet tooth. Microbes love covering themselves in sugars, and do so for various reasons. Take, for example, the spike protein, a key vaccine target for COVID-19. Its primary role is to dock into the human cells tightly and help virus enter the cell. In order to avoid immune system detection, this spike protein wears a camouflage composed of human-like sugars. Luckily for us, this sugar shield is not as dense as in other viruses and will not complicate the development of the vaccine. Our other enemy, pathogenic bacteria, also use sugars in infection. They help avoid the immune system, move around, and stick to the host cells. And while many vaccines have been developed against bacterial infections, our main line of defense are antibiotics, not only as treatment of diseases, but also alongside surgeries, transplants, and chemotherapies. Unfortunately, over the decades, an entire lineup of superbugs has emerged, resistant to all known antibiotics. In light of this, researchers like me are working tirelessly to discover new drug targets to combat resistance. Curiously, unlike viruses, bacteria often utilize some very unique sugars in infection. Bacterial systems that produce these infectious structures are what I study in my PhD research. By uncovering precise mechanisms, we aim to find ways of disrupting them that will lead to the new therapeutics. Right this minute, the world is racing towards the vaccine against one viral infection. Bacterial infections, for which we are running out of antibiotics, can cause an entire spectrum of problems, from hospital complications to pandemics, similar to what we're experiencing now. And while our bodies, like true heroes, protect us from diseases, sometimes you've got to help the heroes along. Thank you.
And thank you for that. We'll hand it over to the judges, see what they thought.
This will be the theme of the evening, of course. Again, thank you, Lyubov, for that pitch and that wonderful look into the inner life of bacteria. I'm looking at my fellow jury members. Is one of the two happy to start? Time? Yeah, maybe.
Thank you, Lyubov, for the nice presentation on bacterial sugars. You explained in your talk how you work on identifying these sugars and these tricks that the bacteria and the viruses use. What does a typical working day for you look like?
Yeah, thank you for this question. I don't work with viruses. I work with bacteria, sugars from pathogenic bacteria mostly. My typical day really depends on what kind of experiments I'm doing, but I do grow a lot of bacterial cultures, and a lot of people are not happy about the smell in the lab, I'll tell you that. But it's a lot of bacterial cultures, isolating certain molecules from them and then studying them in different ways.
Okay, cool, thanks.
Anything from you, Malus?
Yeah, thank you. I really loved your props. I thought they were really clear and attractive to look at. So I'm curious, what, in your opinion, will be the next breakthrough that we can imagine in a short amount of time?
I'm sorry, you broke up a bit. Did you say what will be the next breakthrough we'll
Yes.
witness in a minute?
Yes.
Yeah. Good question. I'm going to stick to the sugar field specifically. And it's actually quite interesting. I've been reading about it recently, that it's vaccine about cancer, against cancer, I'm sorry, but the one that targets sugar specifically, because interestingly, often cancer cells overproduce sugar structures. And so if only our immune system was able to pick up on that, our immune system would be able to clear out these cancer cells. So a vaccine against that would help tremendously. And of course, it would often have to be in conjunction with chemotherapy, but actually our immune system are very, very capable of eliminating these bad cells very effectively. So that would be, I think, something tremendous, because cancer is a big killer right now.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, okay. Again, Lyubov, how far in your research are you now? When is about your PhD project?
Fourth year.
Fourth year, okay. And a PhD project always is, it's like a square inch. It really narrows you down. I see a certain glance in your eyes. I take that as a yes, right? But when it's about your scientific career in front of you, would you like to take this particular subject further, or would you like to broaden or maybe to shift a little bit?
Yes, thank you. That's a question I ask myself often as the last year PhD student, what's next? And I do really like the field of sugar, so I know I want to stay here, but honestly, it's in everything. It's so broad that you can really do anything with it. And I did work now with
I'm afraid I'm going to have to step in here. Just as the pitches are limited to 3 minutes, the question session also has a limit.
So thank you very much, Lubov, and I hope the judges enjoy that.
So our next pitch is from Christian van der Krift, and he made it through to the competition via Eindhoven. And he's a PhD student in industrial engineering and innovation sciences. Are you there, Christian?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you for the introduction.
Hi there. I read here that your research concerns the perceptual distance between client and contractor in projects. What does that mean?
Yeah, well, in a nutshell, what you see is many different people are working together in a project, like different companies that have to develop it together. And what you often see is that these different companies from a different background have a different expectation and vision for how the project should go. And, well, you can imagine that if they have different expectations, then likely during the project there will be some conflict. So I measured how much they actually differ. So that was the main target of my PhD project. Okay, and is this what your pitch tonight is about? It's about one of the studies I did. Yes, I followed a couple of projects for a longer time to see how things were evolving in the project, and that's what my pitch is about tonight, yeah. Oh, great. So I suppose we'll go ahead and watch your pitch. It's called Customer is King, right? Thanks, yeah.
About 2,600 years ago, a mighty king lived in a great palace with many advisors. There are many stories about this king, Nebuchadnezzar, but one is particularly interesting. One night, Nebuchadnezzar had a disturbing dream. The following morning, he commanded all his advisors to come to his throne to explain him the dream. When these advisors asked him the dream, he answered, "If you are really wise, you would know both the dream and its explanation. If you do not know it by tomorrow, all of you and your families will be severely punished." Obviously, the king left the advisors in panic. Now, why am I telling you this story? I am Christian van der Krift, and I research how two companies, clients and contractors, should effectively collaborate when developing a project. Think of an IT project with platform organization as client and IT developer as contractor, or a road construction project with government institute as client and construction company as contractor. With many users in the end and several subcontractors, these can become complex systems in which the collaboration between client and contractor is key. In management science, there are several theories that describe how clients and contractors should effectively collaborate, but these theories are at conflict with each other. I will highlight two important but conflicting theories. On the one hand, we have agency theory that proposes a strategy that looks like what the king Nebuchadnezzar does. Agency theory says that being a client, you cannot trust a contractor. Therefore, you should control and check his or her work, use punishments and rewards, and as a client you'll make all the important decisions. On the other hand, we have stewardship theory that says that as a client you can trust the contractor as the expert. Decisions should be made by the party that knows best, and therefore both clients and contractor should bring in their knowledge and expertise. Also, the recent books De meeste mensen deugen by Rutger Bregman and The Value of Everything by Mariana Mazzucato describe this conflict. They tell that agency theory is more often taught and believed, therefore framing the minds of individuals to also behave as such. However, the second theory proves more often to be right. Individuals can and should be trusted. But does that also work between organizations? So I wanted to know what strategy client and contractor choose, and what works better. I closely followed one IT project and one infrastructure project for about a year. In these projects, I saw clients choose to be like Nebuchadnezzar with obscure strategies, punishments, and contractors repeatedly controlled and checked. But I also saw clients choose to involve contractors, acknowledging their expertise and focusing together on the long term. Actually, these were not different projects, but these two types of behavior followed up on each other. And I saw that when the two parties changed towards stewardship, they became more aligned. So what did I learn? I learned that also between organizations, stewardship provides a better strategy, and that if you want the best result as a client, you should take off your king's clothes and behave more like stewards. If Nebuchadnezzar only had known about my research. Thank you.
I see a lot of the participants tapping here on their screen. It's great to see. In normal circumstances, we'd have a thunder of applause, but well done, guys, for that support at distance. And thank you for that.
Thank you.
Christian. Judges, who wants to kick off the questions?
Yeah, Christian, thank you very, very much. You are, as I understood correctly, one way in your PhD project?
Sorry, what did you mean? I didn't
You
hear
are 1 year into your PhD project?
No. I actually finished it 3 months ago.
3 months ago?
Yeah.
And how does that feel?
Oh, it feels great.
Okay.
Yeah. I successfully defended it, yeah. So.
Yes, I trust you did.
Yeah.
I trust you did. Marloes, any questions?
Yeah, what kind of companies will benefit the most from your research, do you think?
Well, that's a pretty tough question because I think basically any company can benefit from it, but which companies will benefit the most? I think there are many projects, also the ones I described just in my examples in my pitch, are the ones where you have more of a public or semi-public client who's also in culture really different and more of a private company as a contractor. But I mean, this is where it will benefit most, but I think generally any client and contractor can benefit from this research. Yeah.
Right. And what was your most exciting company that you looked into?
Well, to be very honest, I can't actually tell much about the companies I went into, but there have been many great projects that I've been involved in, and involving the construction of several bridges over canals, and like really big projects, many people. And it's really exciting to see so many people working on something, but actually at the same time working like in their minds with different things. So they're working like not really on the same things in a way, just as with this perceptual distance I just talked about. Yeah.
Right. Thank you.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Yes, Christian. Thank you very much for your talk. What I liked in your talk is that you used some kind of contrast. You said there's a way of cooperating based on trust and based on controlling each other. So that made the pitch really clear. That was good. From a scientific point of view, I would wonder, can you also think of company models or cooperative models where you use both, where you use trust at some point, but also use control at other points?
Yeah, that's a great but complex question. So there are several different theories that describe how they should work together, but often they like to stress a certain viewpoint. So what I actually did is I take these two contrasting viewpoints on how they should collaborate. But obviously the real truth is somewhere in between, because you can't have a project without some kind of checks, right? So also for the contract, it is nice to have the client checking something, because then the client knows how good you did your work. So also in such a way, it is good to have it. But we actually started from the point that we saw that in many projects people have the agency viewpoint, controlling and checking, and we saw that happening a lot in different types of projects. So we were like, this may not be the right starting point for a project, and once you start there, it may only get worse. So we liked to actually contrast this with a really different viewpoint, to actually tell everyone that's involved in projects that it's somewhere in between.
Cool.
Thank you, Christian. We're going to have to leave it there. That's the allotted time. Thank you very much. Thank you, judges.
Thank you.
So our next...
Oh, sorry, I was on mute. Sorry, our next pitcher is Esther Okafor, and she got to us via Wageningen. So she's doing her master's she's a master's student in food safety. Esther, are you there?
Yes, I am.
So how did you get this interest in food safety? Well, what spurred you?
So I did my bachelor's in microbiology, and after a while, I found myself working in the food industry. So being a QA person, making food safe is one of my core priorities, and it's really much of a big deal. So I decided to do a master's in food safety.
Oh, that's fantastic. Do what you're passionate about. Do what you love, and you'll never work a day in your life. I think it was Oscar Wilde, an Irish writer, once said. Okay, so we'll watch your pitch. It's called The Fight for Survival.
Have you ever sensed or felt being in danger? Your heart starts racing. Boom, boom, boom. Your breathing gets faster. Your instinct in that moment is centered on survival. You're faced with the option of getting rid of the danger, running as fast as you can, or do nothing and end up dead. This scenario perfectly describes what bacteria must navigate in order to survive in foods. Over the years, we have developed traps called food preservation systems that stresses these bacteria with the aim of killing them or slowing down their growth. This trap ranges from freezing, drying to high temperature. But bacteria, as tiny as they are also quite tricky. They too want to survive, and they have developed tactics to maneuver any trap that is designed to eliminate them. They are able to do this because they have scanning system on their cell surfaces that is able to scan the environment and detect changes that are not favorable to them. With this information, they develop an arsenal of survival weapons that disarm any trap that endangers them. Take, for instance, Listeria Monocytogenes, a bacteria capable of causing miscarriage in pregnant women. When this bacterium finds itself in cold environments, it can sense that it is in danger. The danger here is that the cold temperature is capable of causing severe injury to the cell structure, which can lead to death. Therefore, to counteract this effect, the bacterium increases the production of certain protein called the cold shock proteins. This cold shock protein acts like a shock absorber against the effect of the cold temperature so that the bacterium can survive. The consequence of this is that Listeria Monocytogenes can survive in that food and probably cause disease. This is not to frighten anyone, but if food will remain safe now and in the future to come, it is very important that we understand the various survival strategies used by this bacterium to survive in food. Understanding this would help us design efficient processes that would eliminate this bacteria to reduce the 420,000 deaths occurring annually as a result of foodborne illnesses. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Esther. Judges.
Yeah, well, Esther, we are struggling with mute and unmute, of course, so there will be a bit of feedback every now and then, but that keeps us alert, which is good. Esther, I think you are a storyteller by nature. I love to hear you talk, and yeah, I love the way you really work towards the climax. I hope you have little brothers and sisters or nephews that you can tell bedtime stories, you know, it seems lovely. Do you think storytelling belongs to science?
No, I don't think so. It doesn't belong to science only. Yeah, growing up, I could remember my mom always telling us stories about various things. And I think storytelling makes a particular message sticks more.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Olus.
Yeah, really thinking of a question, but I thought it was a very clear topic. Following in Bart's footsteps there, love the creativity there, and also the calm pace and your hand gestures. So let me think one more second about a question, and I'm going to pass it on to Stijn.
Yes, Esther, thank you very much for your pitch. I like the dragon. And what I was wondering, you're talking about bacteria, and they manifest themselves in food safety. And what is in your research, what's the most exciting experience or strangest experience that you had with either food or bacteria?
So for me, it's for me as a food scientist who focuses on food safety, it's more like a tug of war. So you as a food scientist, you're trying to get rid of the bacteria from the food, and the bacteria is also bringing up new ways to make sure that they do not die. So it's more like a tug of war, and that is why I said in my presentation that it's not something that we just say, oh, we've developed a particular technology and we just sit back. Because as time goes on, these bacteria are able to adapt and able to respond to the stress and survive in food and can even cause diseases. So this is what it is for me.
Yeah, I have also a question. So how quickly are bacteria able to adapt to a new technique?
Yeah. So sometimes, so I'll give you a scenario. So for example, the organism I used, Listeria Monocytogenes, first of all, when it encountered cold temperature, at that point, it is not able to grow. So it takes some time after getting the signal that that it is in danger. It takes some time to make the proteins, the cold shock proteins. So that time pace, it doesn't grow and it just stays stable. Once it is able to produce the cold shock proteins, after a while, it could last for this time pace could last for 4 hours before it starts growing again, which is to get adapted to the stress condition before it can start growing again.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah.
And that's bang on time. Thank you, Marlies. Or Marloes, sorry. Okay, so thank you, Esther. That was great. Our next candidate, or our next pitcher, is Maria Alejandra Mercia Valderrama. Am I saying that correct, Maria?
It's fairly okay.
Thank you. So you made it here through the Amsterdam finals?
Yes.
Or the Amsterdam Heats. And you're a PhD candidate, and your field is chemistry, industrial, sustainable chemistry, and renewable polymers. What is sustainable chemistry?
Ooh. Well, I think what we try to do with sustainable chemistry is to find ways that are more conscious with the environment, that are more conscious with the natural resources we have, and try to do chemistry while trying to be more respectful towards that, and to use natural sources rather than using processed sources or sources that are not renewable.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So a greener footprint going forward.
Yes.
Okay. And so your pitch tonight is entitled "You Shall Not Pass: Barrier Plastics from CO2." So we'll give that a watch now.
Okay. Monday morning. The raw sound of your alarm wakes you up. First thing you do is crawl towards the coffee machine. In a moment, you enjoy your sip of Arabica coffee. Freshly ground beans smell like caramel and nuts. Monday morning just became a little bit better this way. The coffee you're drinking probably came all the way from Colombia, my homeland. Colombian farmers ship the green beans overseas before they roasted here. But there are two main factors constantly threatening the quality of your cup of wakey juice: oxygen and moisture. Hence, plastic packaging is used to protect them. And because it acts as a shield, it is called a barrier plastic. In the Netherlands, the coffee consumption per year is about 8 kilograms per person. This involves a lot of plastic, often made of fossil sources with multiple layers, hard to recycle, and non-degradable. Clearly, we need more sustainable options. And as part of this, our research group at the University of Amsterdam is working on developing barrier plastics from CO2. As you know, we need to reduce the CO2 concentration in our atmosphere. What you might not know is that by capturing it, we can utilize it with a different purpose. We put CO2 into water and add electricity to generate the initial units to make plastic. But plastics are very large chemical structures. To obtain them, we need to link many of those small units. Together, they form long chains with the help of chemical reactions. And some of those units link in such a way that they are very good at blocking gases and liquids passing through them. This makes them suitable for barrier plastics. But not all plastics out there are good barrier. Think, for example, of a tiny molecule of oxygen. In order to prevent it from passing through the packaging, the chains conforming the plastic have to form a tightly packed arrangement. The longer, the heavier, the denser these chains are, and the thicker the packaging is, the better it will perform as a barrier. And external factors can also have an influence. When the environment gets warmer or more humid, it is easier for oxygen to diffuse. In our laboratory, we test this by making films, exposing them to moisture, oxygen, even CO2, and quantifying how much goes through them. Plastics with good barrier are very important for different applications. The farmers I mentioned earlier need to use it to protect the green beans. Moisture and oxygen can degrade the quality but also promote fungal growth during transport and storage. Once the coffee is ground, we need to protect it to maintain its freshness and aroma. Again, barrier plastics are required. But this is just one example. Open your fridge, your pantry, go to the supermarket. These type of plastics are vital in the fight against food waste. But we do need more sustainable solutions. For example, plastics from CO2. Interested in our research? I'd be happy to discuss it over a fresh cup of coffee. Thanks to Barrier Plastics, and thank you for your attention.
And thank you for that, Maria Alejandra. Judges, what do you have to say or ask?
I really had to work very hard to hear you because the volume was at a very low level. But I loved your talk. I love the way you explained it and how green chemistry really permeates everyday life. I think it's very important that you are able to make that connection. Would you ever have expected when you were a bit younger, let's say 12, that you would do research like this?
No, I thought I was going to be a baker or a pastry chef when I was younger.
Yeah, sorry?
No, but this is also very fun.
And do you think it answers to the drives that you had when you were younger?
Yes.
Why?
I think because I always really liked, I think baking is a little bit like magic. You can create some things when you're cooking, so many changes. And what I'm doing now, it's very similar. You have some initial ingredients, you create new materials, you can actually find an application for them. I think I'm doing something that I feel very passionate about, something different, but it's still very similar to what I had in mind at some point.
Okay, great. Thank you. And thank you for the connection between the kitchen and the laboratory, because in the end, it's like all chemistry and physics and a bit of biology. Yeah, thank you. Stijn, any questions?
Yes, definitely. Thanks. Yes, Maria, I'm also a chemical engineer by training, and I also like to bake at home. So I totally get your vibe of connecting these two. So what I wonder from that perspective, you already make it quite hard for yourself to make plastic from CO2 and not just from a fossil resource. So why would you also make it so hard on yourself to make a specific barrier plastic? Is there any reason why CO2 generated plastic is a good barrier plastic?
Well, so here I'm talking about a specific process that it's being developed where they obtain certain ingredients from CO2. And I take those ingredients, which when you convert them into polymers, they happen to have this really good barrier. So it's actually something inherent from the plastic that we form. And it's actually by checking the properties that we realize these plastics have really good barrier and they are suitable for that application. So it was not intended the other way around, but we just found this is an application for this type of plastics.
Okay, so that's pretty great. So you make a plastic from CO2 waste material and it's actually a high value plastic.
Yes, indeed.
Cool, thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I really enjoyed your talk. And I also love the details in it. For example, the cup that you were holding, the clothes you were wearing, and the background, it all matched together. And I love this this eye of detail. I was wondering. I assume because it's a novelty, this type of plastic you're working on, I assume it's more costly at this moment to produce. And what, in your opinion, would be the first step to make it as affordable as normal plastics?
Yeah, so yeah, indeed, this would be very costly at the moment, especially because this technology is still developing, also the CO2 conversion technology. I think the most costly part at this point is to actually obtain those initial ingredients that we need. And I think because it's still very limited and the people who are working on it is basically where I work at the moment. If at certain point we could make this, instead of being produced in a small scale, being produced in big amounts, then the initial ingredients would become cheaper. And then it would be easier because this is the more costly part, then it would be easier to actually at some point commercialize it for a lower price.
And what time scale do you think?
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to step in.
I'm sorry. Oh, too bad. Okay. Thank you, Maria.
That's the time for a question.
We can talk about
Thank you, Maria.
Over a cup of coffee, right?
Yes. Okay, thank you.
And don't forget, you guys watching at home tonight, you also have the power to pick your favorite from this evening. All of the videos are online at the moment at the website www.britishcouncil.nl/Famelab/tickets. And if you know anyone who would have an interest in what's being talked and who would also, you would like to also encourage to vote, please send them the link so they can tune in. Okay, our next contestant this evening is Lisa Cornett. Cornett, okay.
Yeah.
And you got to us from Leiden. So you're doing a postdoc in psychology and criminology. Oh, sorry. Is that...
Yeah, that's true. Let me continue.
Sorry, just hold on a second. Are you not someone sharing their screen?
It's not me.
Okay. Anyway, someone, you're sharing your screen. Just be aware of that. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. So, Lisa, you're doing your postdoc in psychology and criminology. Criminology. That's not a word you see thrown around a lot. What got you interested in the criminology field?
Yeah. Well, actually, I'm a neuropsychologist, so I did a master in neuropsychology in Maastricht, and then I actually wanted to do a master in criminology. That was actually my main goal, but then I found out there was a really interesting PhD project combining neuropsychology with criminology, and I decided that is really something I would like to do. So that was already 10 years ago, and I started my PhD projects focusing on biological aspects of delinquents and criminal behavior. So I studied brain functioning and how that is related to delinquent behavior. And that got me into the field actually of our cross-border between psychology and criminology.
Oh, wow. That's Very fascinating. And is that what your pitch tonight is about?
Yeah, sort of. Well, I made a different pitch than I did in the previous round, but it has to do, well, let's see.
Okay. Well, okay, then we'll roll the tapes. The pitch is called Take Care of Your Future Self. Wish you all the best.
Hello, my name is Lisa, and I would like to start with making a few confessions. I would like to go to the gym more often. I would like to eat healthier. I would like to stop drinking wine. I would like to go to bed earlier, save more money, clean the house. I would like to finish all tasks that are on my to-do list. But for some reason, I failed to do so. And I wonder, why is that? Why is it so difficult? To answer these questions, I have decided to invite someone who has much more experience in life, who has a certain level of wisdom that I don't have. So, please, a very warm welcome to my future self. Well, thank you for inviting me. And yes, I do have some answers, because I have been there. Let me explain. When making decisions, people tend to focus more heavily on the short-term outcomes and ignore the long-term consequences of that decision. It's just easier for you to drink a few glasses of wine and ignore the headache I'll have today. But hey, I'm still the same person, and I now suffer from the decisions you made yesterday. But you're not alone. A lot of people tend to ignore the needs of their future selves. But there's also some good news. Once you have a more vivid image of yourself in the future, it becomes easier to make more future-oriented decisions in the here and now. And that's not something I just made up. There's a lot of research out there showing that people who feel more connected to their future self and have a more vivid image of themselves in the future are much more likely to choose ethical, healthier, and future-oriented behaviors in the here and now. In our project, we use virtual reality technology to create realistic versions of people's future selves. But there's also something you can do. Close your eyes and start a mental time travel. Imagine meeting your future self and try to visualize what this version of yourself look like, where he or she lives, and try to make this image as vivid as possible. Because one day you will become your future self, so start taking care of it today.
And thank you for that, Lisa. Third judges, who would like to kick off the question?
I said the same before to, yes, you can hear me. Mute and unmute is a terrible challenge. I really love your story. I said that to other contestants as well, but you are really a storyteller. You're very convincing. If you would have to position yourself in a traditional discipline, where would you put yourself? And why?
Well, maybe I don't want to put myself in a traditional discipline, because actually that's what I really love to do as a researcher, combining my interest for the field of psychology, neuropsychology, also criminology. I really like to make a combination of these disciplines. So yeah, I don't want to be forced in a specific and traditional discipline, actually.
Thank you. One of the other judges, Marloes.
Yeah, thank you, Lisa. I really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed the creative swap to your future self, and it was also a really calm pace, your storyteller for sure. And I love the clear main message. So I was wondering if you have a vivid image of the future of your project, what would that be?
Yeah, that's a nice question, and actually working on this project forces me every day to think about my own future, but also the future of the project. And in the end, the goal of this project is to come up with some sort of intervention that is totally focused on letting people visualize their own future self. So for this, we use virtual reality technology, but also smartphone applications. And the goal is to come up with tools for people to make it easier for people to visualize their own future self. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to build upon the answer that you just gave, Lisa, because it really intrigued me. If you're thinking about an intervention and maybe VR, what kind of setting would one use that? Is that like is visualizing your future self, is that a skill that everybody should be taught in primary school, or is it something that you're going to use in as teacher in criminology, maybe in jails for people that have criminal behavior to try to avoid that? Is it like a specialistic setting or a general setting?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. In our project, we mainly focus on delinquent behavior because we do know that delinquent behavior is strongly associated by short-term oriented decisions and behavior. So there it would be very helpful if our intervention could help people to make more future-oriented decisions. But in fact, everyone could benefit from this idea because we all face decisions every day where we have to balance the long-term and the short-term outcomes. And you said something about primary school. And the interesting thing is when we are young, people always tell us to think about the future. But actually, people should tell us to think about our future self and to visualize where we want to be in 10 years from now. And not only about the future as a broad or a vague concept. It's really about visualizing yourself in the future. So everyone could benefit, whether that is about stop smoking or drugs, alcohol. Everyone is facing decisions in daily life where a vivid future self could help to make better choices in the here and now.
Very clear answer. Thank you. Thank you. Owen?
Sorry. Yeah. Yes, difficulties with the unmute. Again, bang on time with our wonderful timekeepers, keeping me on time. Okay, great. Thank you very much, Lisa. Our next contestant is, now I hope I'm saying this correct, Vinash Balaji. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's almost right.
And you got to the finals here tonight via the Twente heats.
Yeah.
And you were a master's student in system and controls surgical / medical robotics.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate a little bit on what medical robotics is?
Okay. Actually, it's actually about a field of robotics in which we actually try to make things more useful. Like it's an extension of a surgical arm to a surgeon. So like all kinds of technologies which can be used to actually help the surgeon to solve the cases. It all falls into it. Either it may be imaging or it may be precise operations. Everything falls into it. Yeah.
Okay, and what drew you to studying this field?
Actually, it's a long story. I'll say it in a short word. So I finished my bachelor's in electronics engineering. So I always have a passion to actually work on projects which impact the society in a positive way. So I started working for an electric scooter company at first. Then after finishing that project, I actually wanted to do more. Then I thought that surgical robotics will be the right option to go forward. So I started with it.
Okay. So then, so your pitch tonight is aptly named. It's called Twist My Robot the Way You Like. And here it is.
Yeah. Thank you.
Twist my robot the way you like to deliver drugs inside your body. Yes. To deliver drugs inside your body, you need to do three things. First, you need to move inside your body, movement. Second thing is used to carry the drug. Yes. And third thing, you need to reach intricate positions in your body, intricate configurations for targeted drug delivery. Those three things. So, how does a twist help in solving these things? To know that, you need to know what is a twist. A twist is forming circles in space. And what is so special about this circle? A circle is one of the only stable configurations where you can reach 360 degrees with least surface area or with least travel. Yes. And with this, you can reach intricate positions, 360 degrees with least travel easily. And second thing, forming a circle, forming a twist helps you to grab objects in a reliable manner. If you hold this pen with just 2 points, an external disturbance can easily cause disturbances. But if you grab it in a circular way, twist it, this is held in a very firm, reliable, and a robust manner. So a twist helps you to solve 2 problems. One is going to intricate positions, configurations, and second thing is to holding objects. Okay, what about the third problem? Moving inside the body. To move inside the body, you can do it in a very old-fashioned way, which we have been playing from age 2 with help of magnets. So consider this as a micro robot, and this is your body. I'm putting this micro robot with a magnet inside your body, and this is an external magnetic field or a magnet. So same poles repel and opposite poles attract, right? And with the help of this, magnetic latch, you can easily move this micro robot inside your body. But how do I twist the robot? Should I go inside and twist it with my hands? No. For this, I need to do a striptease to explain this. Say, for example, this is a micro robot and has 2 magnets at opposite configuration. So this is north-south and this is south-north. So if I bring a north pole close to it, so this repels and this attracts. It forms a twist used to carry the objects and also to reach different configurations. And with the help of the magnetic latch, I can easily move to the required location. And if I change the magnetic field to south, and this attracts and this repels, and this latch is broken and it releases the drag. And I can move this magnetic car to any place and I can twist it and carry the drags and I can deliver it so easily. So this is 100% renewable magnetic car. And this also helps to drill clots inside our body. Say for example, if we move to a particular space and if I change the magnetic field too fast, it screws, unscrews, screws, unscrews, screws, unscrews. It drills through the clot easily. So it's a non-invasive surgical instrument too. Thank you.
Okay, Vinash. Yeah, there we are.
Yeah.
And you can see me. Well, thank you very much for that very, expressive talk. I was a bit afraid when you started stripping, but you kept it decent. There was a little shiver in the room, but it's okay. So thank you very much. Any questions from maybe Stein?
Yeah. Vinash, I liked your talk and to see your at the start you explained what your enthusiasm and your was for this field and that you wanted to use your electrical engineering skills to do something good. That was very clear.
Thank you.
At a certain point you were talking about micro robots, and I've also been studying in fields where people call everything micro, nano, or meso. How big is a micro robot?
Like to reach it to a micro scale, you'll have a lot of different problems. So right now the scale I'm looking at in the form of micrometers, somewhere around 200 to 300 micrometers is where I'm actually looking at right now. But before going to that small scale, what I'm trying to do is that we are trying to make prototypes in millimeter scale, and we're going to test out those ideas before actually going down there.
And that 200 micrometers or 300 micrometer scale, what parts of the body could you navigate through blood vessels? Or
actually we can navigate to blood vessels, and we can navigate to blood vessels which are so the best part of this is that you can so if you can twist some configuration, your actual size will go down, and you can and you can, it's just dependent on the width of it. And in the lab I'm working on, what we do is that we take a dead bull sperm and we put magnetic particles on it, and we try to make a magnetic navigation system with it. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks.
Marloes?
Yes, yes, thank you for this very a lot of energy.
Thank you.
Thanks. And do you also have, can you imagine other types of purposes or examples where you can use this for, except for using it in blood vessels?
Yeah. So what we can do is that we can deliver drugs. Apart from blood vessels, what we can use it you can actually use it to sense things inside our body. Say for example, body has a lot of fluids inside us. Right? So when we move through the body, right, what we're gonna do is that based on how you change the magnetic field, the robot actually moves. So based on changing the magnetic field to move it, you can reverse calculate the thickness of the fluid of your body, and you can sense the body in a reverse way. So that is a lot more things to do with it. Yeah, that's what I think of.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm going to have to, again, bang on time. Thank you, Vinash.
Thank you.
So I think this is a good point to, we'll have a break. We'll have a break of about 30 minutes. We'll start again at 8:40 p.m. But I just want to remind you once again that you too, viewing at home, also have some power tonight. You get to cast your vote for your favorite pitch. And voting is open until 11 a.m. tomorrow, 11th of September. And voting can be done on www.britishcouncil.nl/Famelab/tickets. And you can send that link to your parents, get them to look, or friends, or your grandmother, grandfather, whoever you think might have an interest, get them to also cast a vote for their favorite pitch. So we'll take a break. We'll reconvene at 8:40 p.m. See you then.
See you. Bye-bye.
And welcome back to the Famelab Netherlands Final 2020 in the special edition, let's say. We've already heard half of our contestants. We still have half to go, but just one more reminder that all of you at home are not a passive audience tonight. You have the power to give someone a prize. Just to note, you can only vote once. So once you cast your vote, that's it. So do, again, encourage other people to watch in, your grandfather, your grandmother, and get them to vote. Voting is open until 11 a.m. tomorrow morning, 11th of September, and both the audience winner and the judges' decision will be announced then. So our next contestant is Rutger Flein. Are you there, Rutger?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, hi. So you also came through another Groninger, as you'd say, and you're an assistant professor in molecular biophysics. So, yes. So I see biology and physics there too. What did you like from both of those fields that's brought you in that direction?
I missed half of your question. Was your question why I combined the two fields?
Yes.
Great. Well, I really like physics because I like to build big machines and measure with them. But then I want to study something that I find I can relate to in my daily life. And, well, I want to study my body and I have to deal with that every day. So that's why I combine biology and physics. I really love the combination.
Okay. And you are learning about super resolution microscopy. Yeah. Sorry. What is super resolution microscopy?
So normal microscopy is compared to with a microscopy you did in high school, look through a microscope and look at cells, for example. There are way more advanced microscopes, but still you're very limited by the size of light, and I want to see things smaller than light. And therefore it's called super resolution, because we create ways to even look at much smaller things.
Okay. So I suppose we'll take a look at your pitch. It's called Looking at the World Through a Donut Hole. Good luck.
Hello, I brought you some awesome Nobel Prize winning donuts. But first, I will tell you about my research. I study cells, which are like the bricks in a building, building up our body, but then tiny ones. Compare it with the tallest building in the world, over 800 meters, made up from 4mm bricks. Amazing, right? Especially since bricks are a lot more boring than cells. Cells have a whole world hidden in there, with factory workers and skeleton and all sort of transportation mechanisms and a lot more. And because they are all made from the same material, although they've got very different shapes and functions, we call them proteins. And I want to see a single protein, what it's doing compared to other proteins, because that will explain to me how a cell works, but also how diseases work. So, how can I look at the single protein? Because it's small, much smaller than light itself. Well, I do a trick. I've got a protein, and then I put on a glow-in-the-dark label. Great, right? If I now shine light, it gives light. Light is big, remember? So this is not even the right size. It should fill up the whole room. If I shine light on this, well, it gives light. And I know where my protein is sitting. But what if I want to understand how two different proteins are sitting compared to each other? If I now shine light, which is this huge blob, I will get light not only from one, but also from the other. And this is one big blob. I can't understand what's going on. So therefore, I need my Nobel Prize winning donut. As before, I've got my proteins. As before, I've got my glow-in-the-dark labels. But now comes, ta-da, the Nobel Prize winning donut, which is a light beam with a hole in there. If I now hit these glowing molecules, then everything will be instantly dark, except for that a donut has a hole. So in the hole it will still give light. And now I play mind sweeps. I just look through the hole. Is there something? No, no, yes. No, no, yes. So effectively I don't have this very big blur, but I just have very tiny spots. It's like drawing with a fine liner instead of with a huge brush. And now I understand how proteins move. I understand how cells work. This can explain us how diseases work. And that is why I really love my Nobel Prize winning donut, because it can really help us discover the secrets of our lives. Thank you.
And thank you for that. Judges?
Yeah, Rivka, thank you very much for a very, visual talk. As you work on new instruments and you like the very big ones, are there already other research groups that are interested in your work because they expect you to kind of make room for what they want to study?
Do you mean that the way I make the microscopes, groups are really waiting for me to have it done so that they can use it?
Yes,
that...
that's what I mean.
Well, so I just started in Groningen, and indeed a lot of people walk by and say, hey, you've got this nice machine, right? Can I just look at something? And that's exactly what I really, really love, because now I see all these other people working on different things, and it really shows me how much more you can see apart from the things I'm interested in. So yes, it's very useful.
Yeah, thank you. Anyone from the other judges. Marloes?
Yeah, thank you very much for this talk. You already got me with the title. And I also really loved the very clear blobs. It made it very visually clear. So can you give us an example of something that we now know thanks to the donut?
Well, for example, the last project I looked at, so I'm very interested in how DNA is pulled apart when cells divide. But if cells don't divide, they should stay together. So there was a chain that was supposed to keep everything together. And there were always, it was in all textbooks, just as a chain. But when I looked at the microscope, it was not a chain at all. So it's very interesting. Now we can come with whole new theories of how everything works. So that's very nice.
Oh, wow, intriguing. Thank you.
Thanks, Rivka, for your talk. I really like how you tie a bigger topic like preventing or studying disease or cells or DNA to this very specific topic, technical topic of looking at it through a microscope. This is one of the hardest things to do in science communication, I think, to tie all these details into the bigger picture. So that's great. And because you did that so well, I have even one more detailed question. I understand how we can use the donut hole, but how do you make one? How do you make a light beam with a hole in it?
That is a very good question, because you would think light is big, so I can't shape it to the small structures, right? So it's a bit technical, but it comes down to we've got a piece of glass and we paste different thicknesses of the glass together in a circle such that it is just thicker, 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 thicker. And then if you shine light just to this piece of glass, then it will be a donut shape. So I just put in a piece of glass and that's it. Then I've got this nice donut.
And so this donut bakery that you have going in Groningen, is that the only donut hole based microscope in the entire world, or is this
No. So I did not win the Nobel. I did not win the Nobel Prize. So Stefan Hell won a Nobel Prize quite recently in chemistry for it. And I went to his lab where I built one of these microscopes. So from his lab on, it expanded. And actually, you can buy them right now commercially.
I'm afraid I'm going to have to stop you there. Time is up for the questions. Thank you, judges. Thank you, Rivka. Just a quick announcement on the voting. I hear that people are having a lot of issues with voting. It is a problem we're working on. Do not worry. There is plenty of time to vote. You can vote until 11 a.m. tomorrow, 11th of September. So, but once we are working on it, and as soon as we get it up and running, or as soon as it's functioning correctly, I will let you guys know, and then the voting can continue. So don't worry, we will fix it, and there is plenty of time to vote for who you want your favorite to be. Okay, so our next contestant came through the iVoting feed, and that is Erolia Sophia Shanko. Am I saying that correct? Erolia?
That was correct, indeed. Hi.
Okay, hi. So I see you're a PhD student in medical engineering. What age did you get interested in science, and what was it that actually drew you to this field?
Yes, so I've been doing a bachelor's in electrical engineering, especially robotics. I really liked engineering because of the practicality of it and the simple mindedness. But during my bachelor's, I had a family issue that occurred, which was a health issue, and that was a tipping point for me to dedicate myself to the healthcare. But of course, I was an engineer, so that's what I knew how to do best. And but the issue is that so then I tackled healthcare issues, but from the engineering point of view.
And that's what you pitch tonight, is it? Yeah.
So my PhD topic is on diagnostics, on fast diagnostic devices. So my PhD is in mechanical engineering. But I thought I'd challenge myself and I talk about a different topic, which was from a different project in our group. And I thought I'd just give that a shot.
Okay, well, let's what's your pitch then? The name of the pitch is Novel Surgical Tools for the Treatment of Glaucoma.
Glaucoma. Glaucoma is the leading cause of preventable blindness, and it is estimated to cause blindness in 80 million people worldwide. This is a population of the Netherlands and France combined going blind, despite this being entirely avoidable. Nowadays, treatment for glaucoma exists, including surgeries. I am Sophia, a PhD candidate at the Microsystems at TU Eindhoven, and I'm going to explain what innovative surgical tool we are developing to treat glaucoma. To explain the problem with glaucoma, let me first explain what glaucoma actually is. This is the eye. The front part of the eye is filled with a clear fluid. If your eye's fluid system is working properly, then the right amount of fluid is being produced and drained. In most types of glaucoma, this drainage system is clogged and therefore the fluid is built up. This fluid buildup creates pressure in the eye, which in turn pushes the optical nerve and damages it. The result of this? A loss of vision. The goal of all glaucoma surgeries is to reduce this pressure in the inner eye. Although multiple methods exist to achieve this, the most commonly used is the placement of a tube like this one here. This tube has a diameter of a single hair, but simply placing the tube is not enough. The tissue after surgery is inflamed and therefore absorbs all the clear fluid, causing a pressure drop. This pressure drop can harm significantly the eye. It is therefore essential to have a system that regulates the pressure inside the eye via regulating the flow. Researchers in our group are developing a novel responsive material that they are placing inside these tubes. Imagine this as a dam, which you can open or close to regulate the flow of a river. Now, if you ensure that these materials are magnetic, then you simply using a magnet, you can open them or close them. In this way, these novel responsive materials are used to regulate the flow in the eye and subsequently the pressure. Our scientists are a step closer to treating glaucoma with novel surgical tools for eye pressure control. Thank you.
Thank you. That's Sophia. So, judges, who would like to kick off the question?
Yeah, look at the colleagues. Bruce?
So, thank you, Sophia, for showing what's going on in our eyes. And how we can make sure that everything is going all right. I have a little bit of extra information on this side because I've also read your short biography, and I see that you are a founder of a startup in the medtech industry. And what I would like to ask you is, when you look at your future impact in this field, will it be from research or from enterprise and companies?
Thank you very much for the question. I would say it's a combination of both. So regardless, so all the products that you see out there that are being used in whichever that field that is, there was science behind it. So I would say it's a combination of them both, and they are very closely linked. So I'm very happy to contribute to both of them.
Cool, thanks.
Thank you very much for this talk. I loved it to have a sneak peek in the laboratory. And it was very clear, so thank you for that. So it was interesting. What in this field? What do you do research-wise?
Yes, thank you very much for the question. As I mentioned in the introduction, I was describing the project of another PhD candidate in my group, and she's working full time on this. My PhD project, is on a different topic. You will find the TUE Famelab, so the first video, that was it, if you would like to learn more about this. So about my lab day, basically my PhD is on how can I make diagnostic devices faster, like for example, the coronavirus testing.
right? It was important that the testing is fast for fast decision making. And so what I do is that if you saw the microscope right behind me, that's where I spend 8 hours every day. And what I do is that I visualize different binding reactions between the target, which could be the virus, and the elements that I'm introducing in there. Now that sounded rather vague. I could dive more into this, but it gets a bit more complicated and I would need time.
And then we would need another video for that. Thank you very much
but
for this
explanation. We can gladly talk. Thank
yes,
you.
for sure. Thanks.
Oh, and is there still time for my
Yeah,
question? Yes. Well, another question from my side. A dear friend of mine is struggling through an accident with all sorts of issues with his eye, and especially what you have been talking about eye pressure and about the placement of little tubes. And of course, my horrible question is, because that's what a scientist never will answer, how long will it take to develop an interactive tool as you have just described?
Yes, thank you very much for the question. So gladly we are close to that. So in our research group is closely working with a commercial company, and of course they both want this project to reach the market as soon as possible. And so I would say pretty soon.
As soon as possible.
Oh, well, we have not really discussed the timeline per se, right? But I can imagine that the PhD is 4 years, and it would take a couple, or maybe 3 years, or even more of clinical trials, so maybe in 10 years.
And I'm sorry,
but of course.
But for this time, Thank you for that.
Thank you.
So we have 3 contestants left to give their pitches tonight, and the next up is Stein Schreven. Sorry, I had difficulty with the Dutch SCH since starting to learn. Stein got through on the back and and you're a PhD candidate in entomology. What is entomology?
Entomology is insect science, basically. So, yeah, all our group works with insects in some way, but it's very diverse, actually. So we work in interactions with crops, or like crop protection, or in my case, edible insects or insect microbiology. Others work with learning of insects. So how do insects learn? So there's a lot of things going on. Yeah.
Okay, and what's your pitch about?
My pitch is about my PhD and it's about how these maggots interact with bacteria, because we want to use them to recycle waste, which we produce a lot. So that's basically the problem, and that's what we're studying.
Okay, and here's Stein's pitch. It's called A Dirty Job to Feed the World.
As a kid, I wanted to become many things, but never a garbage man. Yet the job is essential. Did you know that every year we throw away over 1 billion tons of food? That's almost 1/3 of all the food we produce. Why do we do that? Because bacteria and fungi colonize our food. It starts to smell bad, and if I would eat it, I can catch a disease. But this wasted food still contains a lot of nutrients. And that's ironic, because at the same time we need more food and feed for our livestock and the growing human population. So what if we could still somehow use these nutrients? For that, we would need a special kind of garbage man. A garbage man that not just collects our waste, but recycles it and produces new food. Now, this garbage man cannot do that. But nature has its own garbage man that can, because it's basically born in shit. Maggots. I'm studying maggots of a species called the black soldier fly. This species can grow on all kinds of organic waste, from rotten fruits and vegetables, to meat waste, to chicken manure. And every type of waste has its own community of bacteria and fungi that can cause diseases. Yet these maggots manage to survive and even grow in such rotting resources. So how do they do that? As it turns out, the maggots produce a wide range of enzymes and antibiotics that help them defend against diseases and break down bacteria. You can see it as a big collection of tools, and depending on the type of waste they eat, the maggots can use a different set of tools to survive and grow. As a consequence, they can reduce, for instance, salmonella populations or remove the nasty smell of chicken manure. But more importantly, as the maggots grow, they convert organic waste into insect biomass. The maggots are full of fat and protein and can replace soy meal and fish meal in our livestock feed. So these maggots are not just nature's garbage man. They can also recycle our own waste and produce food for our chickens, pigs and fish in a more sustainable way. So next time you think of maggots, I hope you think of them as the amazing cleaning crew they are, doing a job that no one else wants to do or can do, but that may well lead to a world with less waste and more food. Thank you.
Thank you, Stein. And Bridget. Yeah?
Okay, that's for me then. Stein, many thanks for your talk. I love to see academic garbage men because they make the world run. Have you been able to win people from outside of your field? You've been able to win them over through explaining what you do?
What do you mean outside your field? Or in what respect win them over?
When you, let's say, talk to the kid from next door, yes, and he has found out something about maggots, and can you, in the end, and he is like, yuck, and are you able to convince him? In your personal experience, could be a party, could be the guy next door, could be someone in the bus.
Yeah, I think most of the time when I start to speak about it, and it's about food, and I start to talk about maggots, people will find it disgusting. But if I say it's for their chickens or pigs, then they say it's acceptable. So I think the threshold to accept that is lower, definitely.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thanks. Marloes.
Yeah, thank you, Stein. It was a really intriguing question and a really clear problem you proposed in the beginning of your talk. And I loved your playing with words. For instance, they were born in shit and stuff like that. I love the humor that you use. So what kind of food are the best to be used in this case?
Well, yeah, so the way in which they grow depends a lot on what waste you use, of course. So they need a lot of protein and they have their own nutritional demands, their own requirements. So, and to some extent, it's still unknown actually what they really need. So which kind of proteins or which amino acids, so the particles that make up proteins. And that's still a question open, but they have found that there's a ratio between how much protein or how much fat and carbohydrates you need to have optimal growth. Yeah.
Right. So we can't use just any kind of food. You should have a specific type of food to feed them.
And of course, you can mix different types of waste to get this composition. So it's not that some waste cannot be used. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Thank you.
Yes. Other Stein. I enjoyed your talk, and one of the things I think in science communication or in general communication that one needs to do is to answer the question that the audience might have, and you did that perfectly. You structured your talk around questions that we might have and then proceeded to answer them, so that was great. There was one question that I still had remaining. So you talked about the usefulness of maggots for cleaning up garbage and for growing food. But in between, you also said, yeah, they have some good mechanisms to defend themselves against disease and to be able to process rotten food. Could there also be spin-off from that side, that we learn from maggots how to process certain types of food or to defend ourselves against disease?
So there's a different type of field actually of research looking into that, and they have recently explored the whole genome of this fly species. so they know which enzymes it could produce.
I'm going to have to cut you short there, Stein.
Okay.
Thank you for your answers. Thank you for your questions. Great. Our next contestants came through on the Amsterdam heat, and our next, and that is Valeria sorry, I'm really sorry. Guglielmi. Sorry. How do you say your name, Valeria?
That was a brave attempt. If you pronounce it the Italian way, it would be Valeria Guglielmi.
Guglielmi.
Yeah, if you pronounce it the Dutch way, it would be Valeria Guglielmi. So. Okay.
Oh. I think I prefer the Italian.
Me too.
Okay, so you're a PhD candidate at Amsterdam, USA, and in the field of medicine and neurology. What drew you to that field?
Well, what is more fascinating than the brain, really? There is a story, though, to tell. When I was in high school, towards the end of my summer holiday, when I was about 16, I remember losing my video camera, my photo camera, and I just remembered, oh my God, all of those memories lost. Of course, they weren't really lost, but it got me thinking about the brain. And then I decided to do my final project in high school on Alzheimer's disease. And that sort of, was the start of my fascination with the human brain.
Wow, that was so fascinating. Okay, so we'll give your pitch a listen to. We'll watch your pitch, and it's called Need for Speed.
Imagine you are Max Verstappen. I'm not. I'm a doctor. I'm more like his team at the pit stop. Now I'm going to share with you what drives my passion in research. Imagine you're in a race. You're driving, you're thriving, when suddenly your car breaks down. It's a disaster. Luckily, you make it to the pit stop. You have a chance at getting back in the race, but only if your team can detect and solve the issue quickly. This is exactly what is happening with stroke patients. Every year, 10 million people are going about their daily life when suddenly their body breaks down. They are rushed to the emergency room pit stop, where a team of medical mechanics is ready to screen and treat them. Each of them is specialized in their own field, and they work together like clockwork under high pressure. So what's the matter? Stroke is usually caused by a blood clot in the brain. In 1 in 3 cases, the clot causing the stroke in the brain actually came from the heart. And detecting these clots in the heart is important because it changes the way doctors treat your stroke, so you have the best possible outcome. The challenge? Clots in the heart can disappear over time, so there is a need for speed to detect them. So what happens at the pit stop? Nowadays, if you suffer a stroke, you undergo a super quick CT scan of the brain and the neck directly in the emergency room. But the scan stops here, right before the heart. Instead, the heart is looked at with ultrasound. The issue with ultrasound is that it's typically done days to weeks after the stroke. This is like calling the engine expert after the race. Meanwhile, Max's car may have broken down again, or even worse, he might have crashed. Surely we can do better for him. I think I may have a solution. Why not extend the emergency room CT scan to include the heart? After all, if you have a whole team of medical mechanics working at the pit stop on your car, why skip the engine? Therefore, I am comparing the emergency room CT scan from the brain to the heart with ultrasound of the heart. Then I see which of the two is the best at detecting clots. My goal is to get Max Verstappen back in the race in tip-top shape. Thank you.
And thank you, Valeria. Judges, your questions?
Stijn, do you want to start? Do you want to kick off?
Yes. I had one question, Valeria. You really nicely introduced how you were comparing different methods that you can use in the emergency room to diagnose a patient, and you really clearly described what would the benefit for the patient would be. When thinking about these medical innovations, is there also a benefit for the doctor? Why would the doctor use this? Is it easier?
Yes, that's an interesting question. Thank you. I think the benefit for the doctor is that it probably saves money, because the issue with ultrasound is that you cannot do it in the emergency room setting because it costs a lot of time to do it, at least 20 minutes. And when you're treating stroke, you don't have time to lose. So usually the ultrasound is done in an outpatient setting. So the patient needs to make an appointment, have the ultrasound done, and then come back again for the result of the ultrasound. So the benefit for the doctor, one of it would be financial, because if you're scanning a patient anyway and the patient is there in the emergency room, if you just extend it, it's something that's basically already being done and the patient doesn't need to come back again. So it has a quicker diagnosis, most likely, which is beneficial for the doctor because you can treat the patient specifically from the start, and cost benefit. And there's some other benefits, but I don't want to hog all my time. But I think quick diagnosis and potential big cost saver.
And for you scientifically, what's for you in your scientific work the biggest challenge in this subject?
The biggest challenge. The biggest challenge is trying to change the standard of care in an acute setting. So, as I described, you have a stroke patient coming in, and every minute neurons are dying because there's a blood clot blocking blood from going to the brain. And so you want to get that clot out of there as quickly as possible. And you can do this through dissolving the clot with a medication or by mechanically removing it. But you want to be super quick. On the other hand, you also want to know where the clot came from. And in 1 in 3 patients, the clot comes from the heart, but you want to look at the heart before you give the dissolvent medication. So you're in a super high stress setting where everyone is working really hard, and here I am trying to extend the scan, which does require some technical expertise and training a team.
But does that involve you talking with medical teams?
Absolutely, yes. We spent 9 months preparing this at the Amsterdam UMC where I work. So we've had to involve CT technicians, we've had to train them, we had to involve the nurses, the emergency room specialists, the radiologists, because they have to also train in reading the scan. So absolutely, it's a big multidisciplinary effort.
Very happy to keep you so short. That's fine. Thank you, judges. Okay, so we're now on to our last pitch of the evening, and that's coming from Valderrama. She got through on the Leiden piece. Hi, Fabiola.
Hello.
It says here you're a PhD student in cognitive and affective neuroscience. What is affective neuroscience?
Well, affective neuroscience is studying all the emotional sphere of the human being. So basically, that's what I'm interested in since I was a very little girl. And now, I'm doing my PhD project at Leiden University at the comparative psychology and affective neuroscience. So I am pretty excited, still in my first year.
Oh, cool. And is your pitch tonight about your research?
Sorry?
Is your pitch tonight about the research you're doing?
Yeah, partially at least.
Okay, well, let's give it a look. The name of the pitch is Love at the First Swing.
Imagine you are decorating your room and you hang 2 different pendulum clocks on the wall and you swing them. Obviously they are different and they oscillate differently. However, if you wait a bit, they will eventually synchronize, start swinging through the second in a perfect unison. It's still unclear how this happens, but you know what the amazing is? People do it too. We do synchronize each other constantly. Let me give you an example. If your friend is exhibiting for an international scientific competition, their heartbeat will be quite fast, you can't believe me. And if you are there in front of the stage, yours will start to accelerate too. Your heartbeat starts to synchronize, exactly like the two pendulum clock. And you will start to feel as nervous as your friend on the stage. This phenomenon is known as interpersonal synchrony, synchrony between people. So, since I cannot even synchronize my own hand, I start wondering how the hell we can synchronize our heartbeat with someone else. That's crazy. And that's exactly what my research is trying to point out. How can we do that, and why? To answer those questions, we use teeny tiny piece of metal called electrodes placed near the heart. Those electrodes return us a signal, your heart pulses. So, we put two people one in front of another, we record their heartbeat, and then we see whether they are synchronizing or not. And sometimes they do. For instance, they are incredibly synchronized in lovers, to the point that they don't even have to speak or to touch. People just look into each other's eyes to get in sync. A proof, when the couple were sitting back to back, synchrony was not observed. That's fascinating, but what's the benefit? Why do we do that? Well, interpersonal synchrony seems to be a very powerful social glue. So when we synchronize our heartbeat with a complete stranger, we unconsciously start to feel more comfortable with them. We trust them more. We feel more attracted by them. So perhaps what usually we call instinct or love at the first sight is just our body sending us clear signals. And I think that this is a part of human interaction that should be deeply investigated. Because, after all, how many things do we do in life individually? Almost nothing. But SpaceX, democracy, symphonies, those things require relationship. By studying synchrony, we gain access to dynamics between people, bring to light the gear of social behavior. Because we are social animals, in our mind and in our body. Next time you feel on the same page with someone else, listen carefully to your body. Maybe you're just two pendulums that are start swinging in sync. Thank you.
Thank you, Fabiola.
There was a bit of feedback. Sorry about that.
worries.
Well, Fabiola, you were definitely in sync with the jury. A lovely story. I loved the gestures. If you could continue your research. There's a bit of feedback again. If you could continue your research, as you just suggested, which other discipline would you immediately involve?
Well, thanks for the interesting questions, and actually I can answer pretty fast because it's definitely social robotics. Yeah, I would really like to combine neuroscience and especially physiological synchrony for developing social robots that can effectively interact with people. And I see that now it's a very growing field and we are still learning about humans. So I'm guessing that if we can learn more about humans, we can also build robots that can fit really our needs. And so, yeah, that's definitely what I'm going to do after my PhD.
Very, very interesting. I will think about that. Any other jury members or questions? Dan? Manus?
Yeah.
Manus? There you go.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Fabiola, for this nice talk. It was very clear, and as Bart, I also love this hand gestures. You make it very visible. What I would like to know is, now due to COVID-19, as we're doing right now, we're interacting way more online, so we don't have that much of direct eye contact. What do you think that the consequences will be for our synchronizing together?
Thanks for the interesting questions. And well, I'm actually analyzing a previous data set in my lab, which studied exactly this point. And we've noticed that in online conferences and online video chat, the mimicry of facial expressions and gestures is not the same. And definitely I can conclude that synchrony is not comparable with real life interaction. And that's also maybe why people started to lack this social interaction with people, because probably we are getting some energy and we are releasing some energy that it's something that a computer cannot even think to substitute. So yeah, I think that COVID really affected, that point.
Yeah, it's also visible in our biology in that way.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you too.
Yeah, Fabiola, I liked how you explained that you study the synchrony of people that are either in love or under the same amount of pressure being on stage, for example. But I was wondering, if you study these kind of situations, do you try to study real life situations or do you mimic them in some kind of laboratory setting?
Well, thanks for the questions, and you are also raising a very interesting point in neuroscience and psychology, because we are always trying to creating an ecological setting, but there is this huge gap between real life and laboratories. So we are, of course, trying to create some real life setting, but of course we have to lack some other variables. We are trying to find a combination, like for instance, we are trying to create some blind date in which we record people and we see how they behave. But still, I think that is a step forward that neuroscience have to do, is trying to build instruments that can lead us to study in real life, because we are comparing stuff, but yeah, that's definitely not the same. So I think that it's going to be an interesting point of increasing for neuroscience.
Oh, thanks.
And that's time on the stage. And that's the end of our, thank you, Fabiola. And that's the end of our 11 contestants. You all did a fantastic job. I have seen all night long here on my screen that they're at home clapping for one another, so that's fantastic. Now we can all just raise your hands, and this is our the National Sign Language sign for applause. So if we could all just do this, just to give you all that support that you have. Thank you so much. So we have some dates now. So the 11th to the 12th of November are the semifinals. There are 2 semifinals this year because there are 20 countries participating this year. So we have to break the semifinals over 2 days. The 16th of November will be the announcement of the finalists, and the 26th of November, sorry, the 16th of November is the announcement of the finalists, and the 26th of November is the international final. Now, the winner of tonight will go on to partake in the semifinals, and also will get a chance to professionally record their pitch. In terms of the public vote, we are still working on the problem. Votes are coming in, so do keep trying, but people are working on it. And the voting time has been extended, so you now have more time. So we're now closing the voting at 12 noon tomorrow. And then the winner will be announced at 1:30 p.m. on Friday, the 11th of September, which is tomorrow, to the contestants themselves. And then afterwards, a video will be posted around 2 p.m. All of the pitches are online, so watch over once again to help you decide who your favorite was. But again, we're still having some technical issues with the voting system. It has been extended, but there is more time, so you can just try again to get that vote in. So that was the final of Famelab 2020 in the Netherlands. They all did a great job. We'd like to say just a great thank you to the contestants, first of all. Our jury here, Bart van der Laar, Lucia Kata, and Stein. We would also like to thank the parties that have been involved who put this evening together, and that's KNAW, PSNU, Amsterdam UMC, and the universities of Delft, Eindhoven, Amsterdam, Leiden, Wageningen, Twente, and the University of Groningen. So yeah, that's it. Again, send the link to your friends and family to watch these pitches again. They are available online at the website www.britishcouncil.nl/Famelab/tickets. That's www.britishcouncil.nl/Famelab/tickets. I'd just like to thank everyone again who is here tonight to listen and give their support. It is different, it was a different format this year, but I think we managed. Good night and safe home.